It was mid-1995 and I was looking forward to starting work as the new Dean of Business. I was greeted warmly by Judy Jakeman. After chatting for a while, she handed me my mail in a shoebox. Paul Corcoran, the registrar, interrupted us to announce that we don't have a desk for you at the moment. So that's how I started, with a shoebox and a shared desk. It was an exciting time.
Professor Thomas and I were the first two people to arrive in a temporary office at Maroochydore to set up the whole university. I'd come from a university where all the systems were in place, and I can remember on day one sitting there waiting for the mail to arrive, and then suddenly I thought, goodness, nobody knows we're here. I'd better get us an address. And then I went over to the road to the electrical shop and I bought us a fridge, a microwave and an electric jug. And I don't think I will ever forget, as long as I live, the sight of Michael Hourigan wheeling that fridge down Ocean Street on a little trolley.
Originally, when we moved out to the campus, we thought we'd be working on a campus in Tanua, but just before we opened, the local council decided they'd put us in Sippy Downs. Sippy Downs was a difficult name. I know in the early days when we were trying to build here and we were getting constant rain, it became known as Sloppy Downs. And when people realised that the kangaroos were sticking around, it actually became Skippy Downs.
When I first saw the university site, it was still a cane field. And yet I had a sense that it was going to be something special, and I think it is.
When we first came here, it was just a floodplain on the prairie, so to speak, a few tin sheds, a few buildings, and we had to get the main event, which was the opening of the university, and to do this, there was a few dramas. Basically speaking, we had to work out of a tin shed. We managed to get the food through to the tents, trials, tribulations, everything set, all food sitting on the table. Voila, rain it came. Fell through the tent collapsed onto the food. Luckily, we had a backup. That's about it, folks.
The first memory that's really stuck with me is from the 26th of April 96, when Leneen Ford, the then Governor, came to open Stage 1. We realised that there'd be a lot of nervous Nellies around that morning, so Eric and I got in just after sunrise. Unfortunately, we didn't count on one nervous Nellie having the same idea and getting here early, convinced that we needed their help, otherwise we wouldn't be ready on time. They then jumped on the forklift to take the industrial skips down to the compound for us, hit a pothole, the industrial bin went flying onto its back on the road, doors flew open and rubbish went all over the road. It was then that we'd finally convinced them that if they didn't stop assisting us, we'd never get anything done.
My first visit to this campus was really a visit to a construction site, and it was a construction site filled with a little bit of panic and concern because we were all wondering whether the buildings were going to be ready for the first students in February 1996. And they were ready. And one of the great things about working at this institution is every year experiencing that kind of panic and concern and then discovering that everything turns out to happen in the way that you want it to happen.
Actually, we've had exams in all sorts of funny places. Remember science?
Science.
We're still getting the building approved, and we had exams starting in half an hour.
That was the 17th of November 1997, and we turned the air conditioning on that morning, hoping it would go because we had examination. We had them all over the place, didn't we? We had examinations at hotels. Remember that? The Little Bar Hotel. We lost the whole crew. Afterwards, yeah, the publican was pretty happy with the outcome, actually, and so were the students after the final exam.
We adopted a process of basically talking about the lifestyle, the fact that we were going to be small, that it was a nice campus, that it's a wonderful environment to learn in, but we didn't actually know what we were teaching.
When we first moved out onto this site, there were only a limited number of people here, and I think there were probably about 4 people in the whole building, and we just moved in and I went to the toilet because there's only one toilet we could use, the disabled one, and couldn't get out.
It was possibly why they thought they needed to employ somebody else at the uni, I think, just to make sure Kerry didn't get stuck in the toilet again.
When the uni opened in 1996, I was living here on the coast, and I can remember training for Athens at that point in time and thinking, wouldn't it be great to be able to go to the uni? They opened up with a faculty of business and a faculty of arts, but no science. A year later, I was meeting the dean and trying to convince them the importance of a sports science program. And now, just 10 years down the track, we're one of the biggest programs at the university, and we've got one of the most innovative programs in the country. demonstrated with our National Sports Science Accreditation.
My first memory here at the university was on my first day back in 1996. My office was located up in the Chancellery with Judy Jakeman, who made me very welcome. The new dean at that time was starting on the same day, but unfortunately he didn't turn up for work, and they had a special morning tea planned for him, and I guess I ended up being the special guest for the day with the Vice-Chancellor, which was all very nice.
We opened the library in February 1996 with absolutely nothing on the shelves. We had to convince the students we were going to have a library. It was a virtual library. We were relying on computers and technology. Difficulty being, we had one computer. We now have in the library over 130 computers that students can access. We have over 300 reader-seater places. And this year, significantly in our 10th year, we're going to be adding the 100,000 items to the library collection.
I started here at the university on the 4th of January 1996, and I've enjoyed almost every minute of it.
My first visit to the uni, I came for a meeting prior to semester starting, and I was shown the library, which was a big empty tutorial room with lots of empty metal shelves in it. And indeed my first task was rushing through the shelves at Queensland Uni finding photocopy articles so our students would have something to read.
I think our graduation ceremony is one of the best graduation ceremonies I've been to. Our ceremonies are so intimate and so personal.
The enthusiasm of all of the staff, and especially that first group of students, I think for a lot of them this was their first university experience, so they were quite forgiving of the lack of facilities.
And I think the really wonderful thing is that we were there for their first graduation as well, and seeing them graduate, that was a really wonderful, a really special moment I think for a lot of staff.
I'm hopeful that I'll be working for this university for quite a few years to come. To see it go into its second substantial decade, to see it do a whole lot of things that I think will make it a wonderful institution and an important part of the Sunshine Coast region.